Welcome back to Crawford-Clark Close-Up and our series of horror reviews this October of old and new releases leading up to the release of the sequel to John Carpenter's mesmeric 1978 original Halloween later this month. Another horror anniversary for celebrating this year is the 50th of Roman Polanski's haunting adaptation of Ira Levin's novel Rosemary's Baby. This is the story of a young couple, Rosemary and Guy Woodhouse, looking for a home together in New York. Guy being a man of the arts and needing to be in the hub of all the activity, and Rosemary hoping someday soon to try for a family of their own. The notion of this idea is ingrained in the viewer from the very beginning, as instead of being granted the standard horror film title sequence and ominous score, we are treated to a simultaneously melancholic and haunting lullaby as the film's signature theme, sung by Mia Farrow herself as Rosemary. It's a leitmotif that's used throughout the film and will play a part at the very end as well, bookending the story. Polish-born Roman Polanski, no stranger to controversy these days, got one of his earliest breaks with this, following 1965's Repulsion, 66's Cul-de-sac, and 67's Dance of the Vampires, and in hindsight, his mark is stamped all over the film. This is a character study more than a straight-laced horror picture, with an outstanding central performance from Mia Farrow and brilliant support from a stellar supporting cast, including John Cassavetes as Rosemary's intensely unlikable partner Guy, and Sidney Blackmer and Ruth Gordon as the creepy neighbours the Castavetes, who invade Rosemary and Guy's life when their lodger apparently commits suicide. Polanski's screenplay of Levin's novel was Oscar-nominated, but Ruth Gordon was successful in winning the Supporting Actress Oscar and Golden Globe as nosy neighbour Minnie, who coaches Rosemary during her pregnancy. Paranoia sets in quickly for Rosemary as she takes the advice of the Castavetes by ditching her regular doctor in favour of theirs and becomes almost unrecognisable in her frailty during the pregnancy. The standout scene, however, is the scene where Rosemary is drugged and impregnated by the devil, no less, with the neighbours, friends and Guy himself encircling the bed, chanting rituals, whilst Rosemary is hallucinating. It's a powerful sequence that is played by Polanski as both a vivid dream of Rosemary's and a stark reality of perverse cult members at the same time. William A. Fraker, noted for his cinematography on films as diverse as Bullet and Exorcist II: The Heretic, also got his big break here, lending his eye to the film, and it's a mix of opportunity when we first encounter Rosemary and Guy, and dread by the film's shock finale. What begins as an innocent fresh start with whitewashed walls and new beginnings for Rosemary quickly becomes a nightmare with the screen drenched in deep reds and shadows. Not only was Ira Levin impressed by the adaptation of his novel, singling it out as the single most faithful adaptation of a novel ever to come out of Hollywood, critics and audiences were similarly impressed, going on to call this a landmark in the horror genre. It's not for blood and gore, of which there is little to none in this story, but for the genuine suspense and conspiracy that Rosemary and the audience know that her baby is in danger. Polanski went to great lengths to make sure scenes were as authentic as possible, down to vegetarian Mia Farrow eating actual raw liver during her pregnancy, and later in the film, Farrow walking out in front of real traffic, followed by Polanski and his handheld camera himself, as none of the rest of the crew were happy to do it. Another audacious aspect of Polanski's direction is that many of the scenes are shot in one continuous unbroken take, most especially the phone booth scene where Rosemary and the audience are expecting Rosemary to be caught any moment. The film also has a perfect runtime, with a clear first, middle and third act to Rosemary's story, which is remarkable given that the original cut of the film ran for over 4 hours. On the film's 50th anniversary this year, Rosemary's Baby has lost none of its appeal or style. Yes, it's a product of the 60s, but it's still hugely relatable today with its feelings of paranoia and complications in pregnancy. It isn't perfect. There is some significant overacting in part, and an obvious lack of interest in the material from actor John Cassavetes, who did not get on particularly well on set with Polanski, but for the most part, this is a hugely engaging classic in the genre. From Crawford-Clark Close-Up, our verdict...
Alrighty then.
Have you seen Rosemary's Baby? How does it fit for you in the horror genre? Whatever your thoughts, let us know in the comments below, and please subscribe to Crawford-Clark Close-Up for more. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter, and you can email us your suggestions for future reviews on the channel to crawfordclarkcloseup@gmail.com. Stay tuned to the channel for the rest of this month, as we'll be exploring George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead soon, but next up we'll be celebrating the 20th anniversary this year of Hideo Nakata's atmospheric Ringu. Thanks for watching, and until next time, that's a wrap.